Another brisk morning in Connecticut in May. It's hard to believe that in May sometimes you have to actually run the heat, but that's what we've been doing off and on in Connecticut. Sometimes it's been a little chilly, where you have to turn the heat off a little while, take the chill off, but that's okay. We're inside Elliot's Law for another episode of When Black Men Talk. I'm your host, Mark Elliott, and this morning we're going to have a guest, not just any guest, a guest that I came across recently that just kind of just blew my mind. And I'm sure once you hear him start to talk, he's going to do the same for you. But it made me start to think about when I was doing my homework and I went back to the basics and I thought of a man in relation to his child and his children, a father. And then sometimes I think we forget that one of the greatest responsibilities bestowed onto a man is being a dad. Some men run to it, some men run away from it. But there's an organization that's empowering men to honor themselves through grace, compassion, and love, to give fully of themselves to their children, family, and society. The organization I speak of is Kids Deserves Dad. Just think about that for a second. Simple. Kids Deserves Dads. The founder director of this organization, Zach Martin, happens to join us this morning. I'm happy to have him spend some time with us. Good morning, Zach Martin. How you feeling, sir?
Good morning, Mark. I'm feeling fantastic, man. It's bright and early here in South Dakota. So, and also crisp. I love these cool mornings. Get the doors open, the windows open, and let that cool air just. I got a hoodie on, and I cherish them because we're about to be hitting hundreds and stuff here pretty soon, and those we'll look back on these days, wishing we had them back again. So.
You're so right. You're so right. Give us some insight to what's behind Kids Deserves Dads.
Well, I started this in 2017. My son was about 10 months old, and really just knowing that I had a great father and a great family, and my son deserved the same, and trying to be involved in his son's life, going through a custody dispute, and in that. There was a lot of things wrong with how our system was set up, and a lot of dads are prevented from being dads and uh, and actively involved in their kids' lives, and some guys choose out, like you said, and that guys need help and guys need support, and that there's a huge need out there, and there's nobody filling that void to help men be what's possible for themselves and for their kids, and that they're having to do it all by themselves or with their friends, and if their friends are even there to support them. And so I was like, we need to have something to bring men together around this difficult time and empower us to do better and be better for ourselves, and probably more importantly, I don't know, equally important for our kids, because um, they need us also, and we're better when we have good fathers and good parents.
That's well said. It's interesting because I think a lot of times as men and people in general, when we're going through something, it could be a divorce, separation, we're feeling something in life. A lot of times we're thinking that we're alone and we're thinking we're the only person in this whole big wide world experiencing this. Then you kind of get in contact with other people. You realize, no, a path that you might be walking, others have walked the same path. And I admire the fact that what you were feeling, you internalized and decided to help others, man. It doesn't get any better than that. But I want to go back to the foundation, because to me, hearing the work that you're seeing, the work that you're doing, listening to you and understanding you, your foundation, man. I want to understand how does Zach Martin get put together. Let's go back to when Zach Martin was a little boy running around. Let's go back and spend some time there, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I think we talked before, but that I don't give my parents enough love for how much they gave to me, and how inspirational my father was and my mother were in my upbringing, and how they've impacted the man that I am today. So I guess my dad was in the military, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was about 9 or so. Um, and my dad was in the military. My dad was a doctor, so was in medical school when I was born, and he loved to work and had a good work ethic. You got to have that to go that far, I think, but in school at least, and but my dad was always there, on weekends. He coached all my sports when I was a young man, a young kid, up until probably even doing like baseball through um, junior high and early in high school. And he was always there to support me and guide me into pushing myself and, and striving to be the best that I could possibly be at all times. And my mom was just so caring and kind and supportive. And when I say kind, not necessarily always nice, kind and nice are a little bit different. So I remember one time when I was probably 14 or so, before I got my first job, and baseball was my favorite sport, and I didn't make a team. Hey, my son. I told you he'd be asleep, but I told you he'd wake up as soon as we got started. And here he comes. So, you want to go play in your room, son? I'm on a podcast. Thank you. And sorry about that. And
No, that's it, man. Don't worry about that. Mm-hmm.
son, I can't hear you. You can put your headphones on, but turn the music off. Yes, thank you. And we were sitting there, and my mom, I was playing sports, and I got a little out of shape, and I wasn't the best. And my mom told me that, well, son, you're just not good enough to be on that team right now. And it hurt my heart, right? In the moment, I was like, Mom, you told me I'm not good enough to be on this team. And the fact was, I probably wasn't good enough at that moment to be on that team, and I didn't do the work that I needed to be doing to make that spot. And so I put a fire under my butt, and I got a job so I could go and get a pitching mound and stuff. And so I got a job, and my parents split a pitching mound with me to put in the basement at my dad's office. It was an open area and stuff, and I went down there and I worked out. They had old equipment back in something from like the 70s probably in there, old bench, and just remember like working out at 15 years old and throwing baseballs by myself and hanging out there and working out. And the next year came back and made the team that I didn't make the year before, and it was because of the work that I put in. And I wouldn't have done that kind of work if I didn't have somebody telling me that, I needed to do that work if I wanted to have that. And that's kind of how they've pushed me throughout my life, is to keep pushing myself. And sometimes it's nice to be nice to somebody and people appreciate it, but being honest makes a big difference. And that honesty my mom gave me that day, and my parents have done it different times throughout my life, have made a huge difference in the man that I am today, and how I've continued to keep striving and pushing myself hard to step up to challenges and overcome the adversities that are put in front of me. Some of them self-imposed, and some of them just systemic, that have come out of the way our society is set up, and how things are designed to play out. And so I really thank my parents for how hard they've worked to give me this life that I have now, and they've supported me since I was young, and continue to keep supporting me to grow now. So they haven't, a lot of people talk about how their kids, can't wait till my kids are 18 years old and they leave, and I can do my own thing. And I feel like even my parents, as we got 18 and into young adults and through now, that they've been even more involved, partnering on some businesses and doing things with us, the whole entire family, and that having that connectivity, even beyond childhood, and that mentorship and parenting and guidance beyond that, has made a huge difference in my life, and I intend to do the same thing with my son. And that some people would say that parenting ends at 18, but man, you could really make a big impact in your kids' lives well beyond that. And if you want to leave a legacy, what a better legacy than to do it while you're alive, and help shape and form that, especially my son's a boy, obviously. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and boys develop later. 18's just the start of hitting adulthood, and really 25, 26, guys are really coming into their own. And, to be there and to help shape him and guide him as he moves through those transformational years into being the man he wants to be. And I think I have a lot of opportunities to really help shape him and get him into that spot.
Beautiful. I want to ask this, man. Don't worry about the noise stuff like that, man. One thing I love that we do here when we do our episodes, it's all live, baby. I don't care if dogs bark in the background, because that's life. Cars could be going by. I don't care. We just keep rolling. So nothing to feel apologize about that at all, man. Essentially, what I want to kind of zero in on real quickly is that your father. What do you? Some of the things you took from your father that you've seen yourself brought into fatherhood with your son.
hmm I think my dad worked really hard. He loved his job, and he dedicated himself uh, to his craft. And he just retired 2 years ago now. But my dad really, um, he was committed to that and worked really hard to achieve that. And he wanted to be the best. And he pushed himself all the time, was constantly in the books, constantly doing the work to improve, watching videos and going and doing classes. I remember one of my greatest memories of my dad. He was going to go to Chicago, and it was right after the Bears were won the championship and stuff. And I was 6 or 7 or so, and the Fridge was my favorite player at
Oh
that
yeah.
point in time, which I think everybody loved the
Oh
Fridge.
yeah.
So
hmm hmm
and my dad's going to Chicago, right? And I'm 7, and I'm talking about the Fridge, and my dad goes, "Well, if I run into him and stuff, I'll make sure that I let you know and everything and stuff." So I'm sitting there, and we were actually living in Hawaii at the time, and I'm hanging out with my mom, and we're in the yard, and my mom comes yelling at me, and she's like, "Zach, you need to come in here. I'm talking to your dad on the phone." And I come in there, and my dad goes, "I ran into the Fridge," and I told this story to like everybody for like years of my life. Um, and he's like, and so his friend, Mark Ratterink, gets on the phone and says that he's the Fridge and stuff. And they're like having this whole thing, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, man, my dad ran the Fridge. And I remember going to school and talking to everybody at school, like, "Yeah, my dad and the Fridge were hanging out last night," and telling this whole story about how they like went out and did all these things. And um, but my dad cared so much about, uh, I think they had a great time, but he knew how much I loved the Fridge and loved the Chicago Bears. I like Bears everything, back then I think everybody had Bears everything. But uh but just that he was willing to, like, he knew how much that mattered to me and how much I love the Fridge, and that he was would go out there and think of the story, and him and his friend would like make this up and help me out to have this awesome experience, and just kind of put my dad on this platform. But my dad was always thinking about um, how to motivate me and get me excited and keep me engaged. And I loved to wrestle. My dad was always big on just like physically doing things with us. So going fishing and riding our bikes, and like every Sunday we rode our bikes down to the beach when I was a kid. And um, you know, I remember just being out there throwing balls. We'd go and be in the yard, and every time my dad would come home, he'd come home and we'd go out in front of the house and we'd throw baseballs out in front of the house on the, it's Hawaii, so we lived on a hill. And we'd go out there and we'd stand on the sidewalk because that was like the only flat place we had. And we'd stand on the sidewalk and we'd throw baseballs and throw baseballs, and we'd hang out there and talk and laugh and yeah, he just would spend that quality time, being present with me, doing the things that I love doing and that I wanted to do. And I think him doing those things and being there helped me love that even more, because my dad wanted to do it with me. And so because he wanted to do it with me, now I want to play more baseball and I want to throw more footballs around and play more sports, because um, I get to have that quality time with my dad, and it really meant a lot to me. And so I played every sport, and every chance I got to have to do those things, I did them. And my dad always was committed to coaching any sport that I played. So I had my dad with me a couple days a week after school, just focused on my activities and my sports, and helping me learn the games. And as I've gotten older, I know my dad really didn't play all that many sports beyond like, you know, elementary school or middle school at best. Um, and but he did his best to stay up on it, to learn and to grow, to help me, to keep me growing in the sports that I loved. And he just was committed to being his best self at every turn. And he's continued to do that through adulthood and stuff. We started some real estate companies and we worked together. He had no idea about any of these things, and I was learning about them, but he wanted to help me grow this business, and we built a family business together, and had a really great time doing it. And it supported the family having some places that we get to go and do some things at, because of the work that we did together. And that's the kind of dad that I have, just somebody who's open to supporting my goals, and sometimes stepping into uncomfortable things and pushing himself to do the best so he can be there and help me have that opportunity to grow and do the things that I love. And he's done that since the time I was born until today, and I imagine that until the day that he's no longer with me, he'll keep stepping into that and keep doing it. And I'm blessed to have such a connected and loving dad who wants to be involved in my life and wants to see me grow and continue the family legacy, and help me do it. Not just watch, but like actively be involved.
Excuse me, your father gave you an awesome blueprint for your son. You know, he laid down wow, an awesome blueprint. I want to go back, venture back to 2016, 2017, because kind of when I hear you speak and what I understand, that's kind of like the foundation how where Kids Deserves Dad got started. So let's go back and let's kind of zero and focus in around that area. 2016, 2017, what was kind of taking place at that point to catapult to you into doing Kids Deserves Dad?
Yeah. So 2016, um, my son's mom, we were dating at the time. It wasn't the greatest relationship at that moment either, but she ended up getting pregnant, um, and we were having a rocky spot in our relationship, um, and I was committed to staying with it and making it work. I wanted to be actively involved in my son's life, and I wanted to be there every day. And so I was really pushing to have us have a family and be a family together. And that wasn't her plan, and that wasn't in the cards. But um, I was there the day he was born, January 28th, and I think I'm an older dad. So you told me that you had a dad. You were a dad young and also older, and so I was 37 when my son was born. And one of the things that I was really excited about was I wanted to let him know all the things, um, that he went through and did, and that we did together. And as an older dad, I was like, I need to be prepared for how we're going to set this up. So the day he was born, I actually started his email account, and with his name, and I started an email account for him, and I sent him an email that day, and I sent him emails often to communicate with him the experiences we've had so far in our life. And I think it's a really awesome thing that I've done for him, and I'm looking forward to sharing it. And I talk about it because I think more guys should do that stuff. I don't remember all the things that him and I have done in his 7 years, but I know that when I go back and reflect on it through the emails that I've sent and the videos and photos I've shared, that I will remember all those moments again, and I look forward to giving it to him when he's a young man. But um, I was there with her that day, and I got to be present for that stuff, and it was really wonderful. And we spent the first 5 months of his life being together, and I got to spend all that time with my son. And I really, at that moment, didn't think that. I thought actually it was going to work out pretty good, and that maybe we would uh, figure it out. Her being pregnant was probably the best part of time of our relationship, and I kind of was hoping that was going to be the start of a new uh, found loving and connected relationship. But that wasn't the case. And at 6 months old, just under 6 months old, we split up. And how I envisioned it was that, okay, well, if we're going to split up, then we'll just, we'll share our son, and I'll get him half the time and you'll get him half the time. And we get to raise our son and help him have two loving parents and families. And it will be really fantastic. And it won't be that hard. And I remember sitting there, we were at her house, outside of their house in her front yard, and she said, "That's not how this goes, and you're not gonna get half the time with your son, and until you get a lawyer and you get to see him, you get the stuff set up, you're not gonna get to see him." And I stood there in her front patio, and she had our son in her arms and closed the door on me and went back inside, and that was the last thing she said at that moment. And I was I was shocked. Um, it caught me completely off guard, and I wasn't prepared for that stuff. And I kind of went into my own shell. I had some friends that had gone through that, but I went into my own place, and um,
I could imagine
and
that had to be tough. I was going to stop him for a second. I can
yeah,
imagine that could be tough at 36. I mean, you're doing all that you did. And that's what a lot of times people, and I don't take anything from women basically carrying a child for 9 months and they're inside of them. But I think they forget that when a man realizes he's going to become a father and he realizes that a child is coming, society in the world don't think about what goes inside a father's mind. They
hmm
don't think
yeah,
that we start strategically thinking and planning and thinking of things. How are we going to handle stuff? And it's like in reality, they act like we just basically stand there and just wait to be given directions. It's not true. And it's almost in a sense like they don't feel like we have emotions that's towards the child. Now we may
mm,
not verbalize it, but as men, we're basically feeling a lot of different things inside. And we know that when this child is basically brought into the world, that we have, and I know, and the word obligation to me sounds like it's heavy, but we know we're going to take on a responsibility to care, love, and nurture another human being. And it's
hmm
ironic that, and I don't say this to be mean, I just say what I've seen and what I experienced, is that for the most part, the world look at us like, okay, for the most part, you did this, provide us with this, and just let us be. And a lot of
hmm
times, as men, we kind of float into that. And I'm happy when I see men stand up and go, no, it's not going to be that way. I'm not going to
yeah,
allow that to be the way because this child is part of just as much part of me. It's part of you. Yes, you carried him for 9 months, but I'm not going to give you the chance to basically dominate because you feel like you did such. So I understand what you're saying when that, what you're feeling. And I just wanted to interrupt for a quick second because I you know, I'm glad you're sharing this because a lot of men, like I said earlier, we've been in this situation where we kind of feel and society gives an upper hand. It's not, and I don't look at it as a sense of war, but my point is if we're both, as a man and a woman, we want the both for our child. Don't use a child as a sense of as something that could be as a tool. No, let's both, if we're not going to be together, let's both find a way to love the child and make sure what's best for the child, not where it's a time where you're mad at me, something didn't work out. You're going to use this as a tool, as a weapon to gain something and
hmm
forget about the child. And that happens a lot. So I wanted to kind of just drop in and sorry for interrupting, man, but go back to where you were and you start from
yeah.
there.
No, I think I think that's so true. And so I kind of
Mm-hmm.
spent a couple of weeks like going to myself. I was like, holy smokes, like what's going on? And
Mm-hmm.
I was regrouping and everything, and I started talking to some of my friends. I play softball. I still play all kinds of sports and everything. And so I was playing softball, and I have a lot of friends who were dads, and separated. And so I started asking them a bunch of questions like about their experience. Like, is this what happens? And everybody just said the same thing. Like, yeah, and you have to go to court, and you'll get every other weekend. And I was like, man, I was like, didn't you like want more than that? And all these guys were saying, yeah, I wanted more time, and I didn't have enough money for lawyers, or I didn't do this, or whatever. But or I went to court, and the judge gave me every other weekend, like everybody else gets. And I was like, man, that's not okay. Like, why does my son not need and deserve to have me in his life just as much as his mom? I have value to give to my son and things to impart in his life and help him grow. And why is that only valued for the weekend and how much money I can pay her? And so going through that whole process through the summertime and getting the court started, and I went from seeing him every single day after I got done working, and I owned a real estate company at that point in time, and went from doing that every day to 2 hours twice a week, and it broke my heart. You know, the way we get him dropped off and stuff was just heartbreaking. It had to be at a gas station, and it had to be at this part of town that was in the middle of nowhere. So we had to drive somewhere to go do something, and I had to be back there within 2 hours. And it was just gut wrenching to be treated like I'm not valued, and my son doesn't need to have that experience. And I remember we'd go to the parks, man. We went to every park in our town. We were from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I went to every that summer. I took him to every single park in town, and we spent our 2 hours going to different parks, and we got to experience every single park in town. And he was a baby, so he laid on a blanket or in the grass. But I wanted to do them at different places. I wanted to like take him spots and give him experiences with me in different spots. And so we go walk around and do it. And it just tore me up to be seen as such a unnecessary part in the raising of my son. And I went to court, and so I was going to court, and we got a GAL, and I got no more time with my son. I didn't even get overnights until he was about a year old. And at that fall, I was sitting there in November. I do a lot of personal mastery development work. I do this group called Clemmer, and I just love being part of growing and being a better version of myself. And so I was at a conference called Heart, and one of the things they do at this conference is you get in a little group, and it's an impromptu thing, and you dream about something you would do to impact the world and make a difference. And I was sitting there, and I thought of Kids Deserve Dads, and I made it up right there on the spot. And I talked about it in my small group, and then in a little larger group, and then in front of the whole entire auditorium of participants, and I got second place. And I was like, you know what? These people really believe in what I'm saying, and I know that there's a need for this out there. And so I got done with that, and I went back to Wyoming, and I started my 501c3 Kids Deserve Dads that day, and it's been going ever since. We started with, I think one of the things we started with was support groups, and so we had meetings and support groups with the dads, and I worked on changing some laws. So I had a lawyer at the time who was a House representative, and him and I worked on a couple bills. And we got a couple of bills passed, and one of the bills was really impactful in lowering the amount of time that a non-custodial parent had to have for both parents' incomes to count towards child support. Before that, it was only the non-custodial parent's income counted, and it didn't matter how much time they had. It only unless you had over like 45%, you had to have only the non-custodial parent's income counted. And so there was a cliff, and no one would, people didn't give half the time because of that cliff. And so we got it lowered to 28%, which is basically standard visitation every other weekend. And that lowering got us so that way both parents at that point in time, both parents' incomes counted towards child support. I thought that might help me out with my case. It did not, but we got really active at that point in time, and I started getting the dads that came to my groups, and we talked about the things that guys needed in the support groups. What do guys need? And we had probably a couple times we had 15 dads coming to our groups, showing up, being present in my conference room and talking about their experiences and what they're going through, trying to be a dad and navigating a system that really holds dads apart and keeps them separated from their kids. And it really is a system that's designed to, like, whoever the non-custodial parent is, and I say dads, and it's mostly is dads. 80% of the time, women get custody, and dads get it 17%. Um, that that we're kept at a distance. We're prevented from being actively involved in the vast majority of the stuff that happens in our kids' lives, taking them to school, picking them up from school, you know, daily routines and stuff that we have, and we are allowed to be in our kids' lives every other weekend, from Friday till Sunday in most states, and it gives you not a lot of time to build that relationship and connection with your kids, and I think it's caused a lot of problems in our society with fatherlessness and a lack of purpose for dads. If you're not given that opportunity to be impactful, what's the purpose? And I think that's why we see a lot of dads check out and choose out of being fathers, is that um, they didn't have fathers and they weren't connected to it. And I want to change that. I want to help these guys see the power that they have to impact their kids' lives, even if it is only every a weekend. And how do we make that happen?
Father, or to a young child, okay, I'm allowing you to be around your father twice a weekend. I mean, twice a month. And a lot of fathers fall into, not with the fight. They just accept it and go on. But think back to, as you spoke of your dad. Your dad was always there. And think about any human young man or young girl for that matter gets the chance to be around their father. Let's say there's 31 days in the year, in the month. You get a chance to be around your father for 4 of them. 4 out of 31, you get a chance to be around your dad for 4 days. How much fathering, how much of the bonding, how much, and we tend to forget society, the court system. They don't really think about the kid's emotion stage anyway. I'm gonna be honest. Let's be honest. They don't care about that.
Not at
But
all. No.
yeah, they really don't. They don't care. They don't. They're not looking at the emotion. How much can a child emotionally develop? Because when a child is created, basically, a child's created to be loved by a father and a mom, just not a mom. So if you're taking that father away and giving that father 4 days a month, or 36 days a year, and you expect that child to grow up, have a solid foundation, become a productive person in society, how is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
How is it really
Yeah.
possible? They don't look at the devastations being done. And then when that child becomes a young man and that child is not able to stand and be what society would want him to be, no one looks back and go, you know what? What was done to this child as a disservice? Yeah, maybe the money was given for the mom to basically keep a roof over his head and all that stuff. And I love what you did in narrowing that down because it's amazing in a sense where, just like you spoke earlier, when the relationship dissolves, okay, what am I going to get out of this now? Not what's going to happen for the child or the children. What am I entitled to?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how everyone basically runs to that side. We assume the father is basically no good. So your work, man, to me, I'm telling you, man, when I was just listening to you, when you said you and your lawyer went to fight, man, I wanted to stand and give you a round of applause, man.
Thanks.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, oh come on, man, you deserve it. Because I'm sure other
Thank you.
guys, man, please, your face deserves to be on the calendar, man. And that's a little bit exaggeration, but that is true because a lot of, and I say this, man, clearly, and I said earlier, a lot of us run away, a lot of us run in, a lot of men just settle, and a lot of men honestly go, you know what, I could be that type of dad. I'll give so many days a month, and I got rest days to myself. But think about your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what's going on with you. I've had friends that I've said that to. I get my kid every other weekend. Me to tell me, you're not showing up to the school during the week. You're not making sure this is going on. You're not checking on that. No, I just get it. I mean, what type of father is that? And I'm not. I don't tend to knock anybody doing it, but I'm happy to see you and others realize, no, that's not enough. We're not going to roll over and play dead as you want us to play dead as a father. No, my child, my seed deserves better, and I'm going to work to make sure they get better.
Yeah. Oh
So,
man, I completely agree with you. And they deserve better. Our kids deserve us. The kids deserve dads uh, uh, nonprofit name really is a two sides to that, right? Like kids deserve their dads, and they deserve to have the best dad they can be, and dads deserve kids. You know, like I I'm a better man by being the dad that I am, and the more that I choose into being more connected and focused on being the best dad that I can be, I'm better every day because of that. You know, I, I I look at the way that I show up for my son, and how do I guide him? Hitting the gym and making us good food and good breakfasts and stuff before school, and and planning out the weekends and organizing stuff that gives us fun times to hang out and do things that are meaningful. Like it makes me a better man. It makes me a better dad, and and by doing that, my son gets to see me showing up for him in a better way than I would if I just haphazardly like, oh shoot, it's Friday, I got to pick my son up, and what are we gonna do this weekend? That I'm actually like I strategize on the weekends that we have. I think about how we're gonna be together. When I started getting overnights with my son, I went from getting a couple overnights to they changed it. They let my son's mom move 5 hours away without me knowing. I found out the day before his first birthday they were going to let her move away, and they gave me the month before that, because they already knew this was happening. I was the only one that was kept in the dark. that They gave me 8 days straight, and I got 8 days with him straight, and then I didn't get him the rest of the month, but because she was living in the same town, I got to see him a few times during that month. But the intention was that she was moving away, and and when I would go up there to see him and stuff, I had downloaded a bunch of audiobooks. And I would drive the 5 hours and I'd listen to these audiobooks. And I had like How to Listen So Young Kids Would Talk, and a bunch of books by Daniel Siegel and different people about connecting with your kids. And I would drive that 5 hours and I would just listen to somebody talk about how do I be the best version of myself in those moments, and how do I connect with a kid at this age so that way we could have those relationships. And I would spend that whole time like thinking about our week and thinking about our time and visualizing like how do I engage my son. Like I'm gonna get him, he hasn't seen me in 3 weeks, and how am I gonna get him and get him to fall back in love with me day one, and know that I'm safe and that I'm fun and that we're gonna have this epic week, and then leave him being so impactful that he's gonna remember me in 3 weeks and want to see me again. Because at a year old, I mean, that's just, you know 3 weeks is like, I don't know, a 15th of his life. And I'd go like
Yeah,
a 15th of his life
yeah.
and not see him for that amount. Now it's a much shorter, and I see him every day now for the most part. But it's really, really, it was really gut wrenching to go through that. Um, and I would remember talking to my mom a couple times and stuff, and my dad. But the ones I remember the most are the ones talking to my mom about how how much easier it would be if I could just give up. Like I could never give up, but like the guys that just can walk away, right? You talked about like some guys just they can do the other weekend and they can just accept it and be okay with it, and I just couldn't. Like I could never accept that. I just wouldn't accept that. It was what I was given, but I wouldn't accept it, and I just wasn't willing to do that. I had to fight until the bitter end to be there, because I just knew that was the right thing that my son needed, and that my job as his dad is to go to the nth degree to fight the system as much as I possibly can to be there for him, and whatever it took, I had to do it. I couldn't accept anything less than 100% of my effort and ability. And I mean, I cried every day. Um, I gained like 40 pounds, probably maybe 50 pounds. The stress of knowing that I wanted to be there, and how do I make this happen, and what is wrong with our world that we're pushing these guys out. And we talk about all these kids having all these problems that they have nowadays, and suicide and teen pregnancy and a lack of focus and attention to what's going on in their lives, and mass murders and all these things that are going on, incarcerations and everything else. And then we have this epidemic since the 60s of holding kids, for lack of a better word, hostage from their dads, and using them as tools to extract resources, and not as little humans that need love and connection and support. And and it would just eat me up. I would read the books about it, and one of the great books that I read is Warren Farrell wrote The Boy Crisis, and it just tore me up to see that I'm not alone, even though I felt alone when I started, and I know that I wasn't. And I talked to a bunch of guys. I talk to a dad or three dads every day almost about their experience, and all these guys talk about how they feel alone and that they're the only ones going through this. And I have this unique story, and I always let them tell me their story, but it's never unique. It's almost always the same, and it's so sad, and support them through processing what is happening in their lives and with their kids' lives, and supporting them on and overcoming, and how to be overcome. And so that's why when I put together these activities and stuff, like we did a cornhole tournament this weekend, and next Thursday, actually, we have our Dad's Bike to School Day. So the whole entire city of Rapid City, South Dakota, where I live, is riding bikes. Dads are riding bikes on Thursday mornings with kids to school. And I have probably, that I know of right now, like 30 or 40 dads that have already committed to help out to facilitate the program in Rapid City. And I really want to make it a national thing that we do this, that we have a day that is where dads ride bikes with their kids to school, and we take that
Nice.
time, and my son loves riding his bike, and when we ride to school and he gets to drop his bike off, and help him lock the chain up and stuff, and take his bike helmet in with him, and it's a magical morning. We get up, we eat breakfast early, eggs and sausage, because that's his favorite dish, because you gotta be strong. You're not gonna have an 18-pack without eggs and sausage. So, but so, those kind of things are things that I've really focused on. We used to do, and we're getting back to this year also, back-to-back weekends doing Santa Clauses, and back-to-back weekends doing Easter egg hunts, and having those opportunities to see Santa, to do that, and knowing that no matter what weekend you have your kids, you can come to, we're doing them in Rapid City at the VFW, you can come, and Kids That Serve Dads will be hosting a Santa Claus. And so no matter what weekend you have your kids, a safe place to come to that supports dads and kids having that connection and that opportunity to build that relationship and memory.
Beautiful. I want to ask you that because you said you have your son now every day. After all that happened, all that you've been through, how did that come to life? How did it get to the point where now you're able to be around your son each day?
Well, I was moving. I graduated. I went to law school after I wrote those bills. I wrote bills the next year, and my son's mom moved away, and so I was going to sell my real estate company to a friend of mine, and I was going to move to Rapid City, South Dakota, in 2019. And so 2019, I decided to write a bill for shared parenting. I was like, I'm just going to go for the gusto. It worked so good last time. Let's just hit the home run, and then I'll ride off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds so good. It was a beautiful image I had in my head, and I wrote that bill with my friend and got it submitted, and we did great on the committee. A bunch of lawyers showed up, and we beat the lawyers in the committee. The next day on the floor, 20 plus lawyers showed up at the Senate or House on the floor, and were opposed to the bill that I had proposed. And it was, everybody else, the dads and moms that I had there in support, all were at work, and it was just me against 20 lawyers calling out legislators over and over again to talk about why shared parenting was so important. And we lost that day on the floor, and I knew I needed to do something differently. And so and how much credit these legislators were giving the lawyers. I mean, I heard it over and over again. Well, the lawyers say that this is what's best. The lawyers said this is what's best. And the lawyers told us this is what, we need to be doing here, that what you're proposing is not what's best for kids. And you're just trying to look out for angry dads and stuff. And that's what the lawyers were telling these legislators. And they gave them so much credit because they're lawyers and they see it every day. And so I decided to go to law school, to apply to law school. So I went the next day, and the lady laughed at me. She's like, we've already got half our people in. I was like, okay, like, is there still some spots? And am I too late to sign up? And she's like, well, you're like the last thing, like you can sign up tomorrow for this test, and it was the last day because there's hard firm cutoffs for days in legal work. If anybody's gone through the legal system knows they like their hard firm dates and stuff. And so it was just serendipitous, and I signed up for it. I had not studied for the test. I had like 3 weeks to take it. I started a book and attempted to work on it while I was doing my job. I took the test, and they called me on July 9th, 2019. I was planning on moving to Rapid City that fall. I already had bought a house up here and everything. And they said, I'm in. And I said, okay, well, how much time do I have to decide? She goes, you either decide before you hang up with me that you're in or you're out. And that's what you get. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I took it. And I graduated law school in 2022. I haven't passed the bar exam yet. Fourth time's a charm is what I'm told. So I'm going with fourth time's a charm. But when I moved up here and I graduated law school, she needed support around getting him to school and picking him up from school. And her job didn't allow her to get off of work in time. And so with me being here, she wanted to solidify the support payments and everything else that I was paying in Wyoming and get it on a South Dakota structure. And I want to give a huge shout out to my friend Tom Pischke, a senator here from South Dakota, who had just the year before that spring gotten through a bill that made it so dads get to have Friday through Monday morning and Wednesday overnights. And so that's why the bike to school day is on Thursday morning, because dads, new non-custodial parents, get to have Wednesday overnights with their kids and Thursday morning take them to school. And so that's why I chose that day for the bike to school day. So Tom Pischke made that bill happen, and on July 1st it went into effect of 2022. And she restructured it so that way I could pick him up from school, so she didn't have to pay for a babysitter. And so I got to have him every day after school from when he started kindergarten until she got off of work. And it was really to support her, which I'm totally cool with. I'm happy to support her all that I can, especially when it involves getting to be my son's dad and show up for him. So I'm like, I'll pay you all the money you ask for. I'll do all the things you want. All that matters to me is that I get to be there for my son and support him and be connected. And so I had the opportunity to be there in the morning times also. And she had a boyfriend at the time, so I wasn't able to do the mornings of that first year. She would rely on him to take him and not me. I don't know, fortunately for me and I think for my son also, for our relationship especially, they split up in the spring semester of his kindergarten year, and she needed support. And so she leaned on me, and I was there for her. I was there to help her out, but I was mostly there because my son needed me, and he needed somebody, and I wanted to be there for him. And so since then, she's brought him to me every morning. I took him to school. I take him to school 4 out of 5 days every week, this whole entire first grade year. And I pick him up 4 out of 5 days of the week from school also. And it has been an absolute blessing to get to do that with my son. And then he goes to his mom, and the nice thing is I get a couple hours every day. And then he goes to his mom, and so he gets dad time in the morning. I feed him. I get him ready for school. She usually has him dressed, but I feed him. And, I like to give my son, we really focus on proper nutrition and doing good. So eggs and sausage, he loves them scrambled. And every day we do eggs and sausage. I mean, it is like religion, and I like it because it's healthy and it's delicious, but I'm helping him get those healthy habits. He looks forward to having eggs and sausage for breakfast. He loves that, and he's not like eating cereal and getting up and feeding himself, but that we're getting up together a lot of days, and we'll do it here after we get done on this call, and we're going to make breakfast together and make ourselves some eggs and sausage. And he's learning how to do that. And we do that together. And then after school, this winter, blessing, was absolutely gorgeous. And my son loves playing football. We went outside and played football after school. I would say 50, 60 days this winter. And every month this winter, we went outside and he played football. And he's 7. He just did his first year at tackle football last year. The cutest dang thing ever. But I was throwing in pass patterns, and we're working on pass patterns at 6 and 7 years old. And I'm out there teaching him pass patterns, and he's out there just running them and catching balls. And we did it all winter long. And, those are the blessing memories that I get to have by having this experience of getting to pick him up and take him to school every day. And I sure have cherished it.
Wow.
And I know my son talks about it like it's the greatest thing ever. And he loves that I am so focused on being a great dad. And I believe
Beautiful.
that because I've done this much, that he's always gonna want to be that kind of dad for his kids too. And he's seen this example and he's lived it. And now it's ingrained in him, and he knows that this is what a dad does. And we've been talking about me passing the bar exam and stuff, and I have like positive affirmations around the house. I have like every doorway has I will pass the bar exam July 31st, 2024. It did have February 28th. That one didn't come true, but it has July 31st, 2024. And then we talk about me passing the bar exam and the work that it gets to go into it, and talking, positivity and abundance into those experiences. And he was telling me a couple of days ago that he can't wait to grow up to be a lawyer like me. And I'm not a
Wow.
lawyer yet. And I was like, son, we can have our own firm. We could be Martin and Martin. And to see my son light up, he was in the back of the car. We were heading to school, and he thought of the idea. And so I told him what it could be, and it could be Martin and Martin. And he was like, yeah, Dad, we could be Martin and Martin. And you could just see the wheels in his head. Like, I could be with my dad every day. Like, what? That would be the greatest thing ever. And it makes the days, even when I'm going through adversity and struggling to pass this bar exam and be the lawyer that my son needs and this world needs and that I need for myself, I can overcome this, and I can conquer it, and that I have support of the most important human in this world to me. And I'm doing it the 4th time. Like, he's seen me struggle, he's seen me push and not give up. And I'm leaving him that legacy also, that like, yeah, this is hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've put the most work into this that I've ever put into anything. And when it comes together, this time in July, that it's going to change our lives, and that the amount of work and the dedication and the sacrifice that we've had to get here, it's all going to be worth it.
Wow. Are you loving this episode? Have you ever thought about creating your own episode? Like having your own podcast? What are you waiting for? Get started at podup.com. We're one of the sponsors of this podcast. We would love to someday sponsor yours. Starting is easy as creating an account at podup.com today. Podup literally has everything that you need to run a full professional show. Podup has over 35 different tools with AI integration to further help you succeed. Create a free account today or get a paid account with 15% off with the code WhenBlackMenTalk15. So check out Podup if you want a podcast that's done for you, where you pay an agency to do your website, social media, and editing work. Check out podallies.com. Podallies is an agency run by the folks that literally built the Podup podcasting software. Get started with them at podallies.com. Get a 15% off when you sign up today at Podup or Podallies with code WhenBlackMenTalk15. We can't wait to create with you and launch your podcast. I love the word legacy here, man. I love it, Zach, because I want to. Before I go into that, I want to say this. It's funny because I'm glad I asked, how did you get to see him every day? Because I've seen so many situations where it started out similar to yours. The father doesn't get a chance to see the child, and then as lifetime goes on, for the fathers that are willing to stand firm, God works it out. He works it
Mm-hmm.
out. I'm gonna say this real quick, man. I remember my ex brother in law was years ago. I remember him and my sister got separated, and they were at each other, antagonists. And I said to him, I said, you got to realize something, man. I'm her brother, but I said to him, I said, you got to realize something. Your life with her is over. I said, your focus now must become your daughter. I said, do not play into arguing with her and going back and forth. Make your daughter the focus and forget about it. I said, you and her tried to be married, didn't work. He looked at me like I had five heads. He came back a few days later, said, Mark, thanks. So in the early part of their separation, divorce, same thing. He couldn't get to be around my niece that much. And he didn't go to the courts. He just stayed humble and kept doing what he was doing. There came a time in life shortly after. He was around her every single day. He walked
Mm.
up to me one day and they said, Mark, I want to thank you again. I'm like, yes. Because a lot of us, again, don't tend to stand in that gap and we kind of let it kind of move away. I'm going to say something to you, Zach, man. You know, whether you know it or not, and I believe you do know it, God has his hand on you, bro.
Yeah.
Because he's allowing you to basically do what you do to help others. And there's many of us that may want to do what you're doing, but it's not strong enough to do what you're doing. And he's allowing you to go out and help men that basically just need someone to say, hey, what? I'm there with you. Allow me to basically take you from here to there. And, you know, what you're doing, it's not even, you haven't even cracked the ice yet. Because there's so many men you spoke where you're located in South Dakota. This is worldwide. It's not only in
Yeah.
your area, Connecticut. It's worldwide, where men basically need a place where they can go and be around other men, talk to. I don't care if it's Zoom, whatever, where they can basically understand. You know, you're not alone. No, stand up for what you need to do for your child and your seed. So what I want to do now is basically, you guys offer some great things, man. Some help, a range of help. I want you to go through them. You have the fatherhood
Yeah.
centric classes, the stuff of that nature. Please, man,
Yeah.
let's hear about that.
Yeah. So I I do fatherhood classes. I teach a class called Key Behaviors of Fatherhood, and that's our introductory class. And to be part of our support groups, we ask everybody to take that class. Support groups are free, but that class has a small fee, and you get a book and stuff with it. But one of the things that's important about that class and why we have it as an intro to get into our support groups is that they have some real good guidance around story and telling your story and living in your past story and building your future. And so it's real big on getting you out of that story. And you spend 6 hours really focused on who you are and what you want for your life and how you're going to get there, as opposed to this is what happened. This is how I felt about it. This is how it still affects me. And so our support groups go way smoother by not having everybody, I'm new and here's my story. And we spend 30 minutes hearing somebody's story that is very similar to everybody else's. Because in this situation, unfortunately, while you feel like you're alone and you're isolated, your story is almost the same. It might be a little different nuanced details and stuff, or a little different scenario, but that we're prevented from being in our kids' lives and we're held away from them. And it's a systemic problem that's out there to do this to dads, and that we get to overcome. And so that's our intro. And then we do some weekly support groups, and we're working on building another set. So maybe having 2 of them or 3 of them a week to keep growing it. And our classes are on Zoom. So we teach a class in Zoom in Wyoming and in South Dakota. And then we have a 24/7 dad program, which we got from Fatherhood, National Institute of Fatherhood. And that's a 12-week course, really great on looking at how to be a dad, how to show up for yourself. They talk about a lot of things that we do just in general about proper nutrition and getting exercise and relieving stress and going to work and doing something meaningful, and then being the best dad you can be, and trying to do what you can to help the mom out. You know, they may not be being nice to you, they may not be treating you very well and stuff, but your job, like you said about your brother-in-law, is, hey man, like, put the pettiness away. Don't D in that, and focus on how are you going to show up for your daughter, how are you going to show up for your kids and be in their lives. And I have done that. I don't always do that, I'll be honest. So sometimes you get triggered and you do it, but you get to reflect and then choosing to do something different. I think the one that I'm most excited about is our conscious fatherhood class. And we teach a 12-week conscious fatherhood class, and this is the one that is my favorite course. It's really about analyzing how you grew up. We spent a lot of time talking about the programs that you were given as a child and how your parents impacted your life and the way that you were raised, and then how your upbringing has impacted your adulthood and now your parenting role and responsibilities and actions. And is this really what you want for your kids? And then we dive into, a lot of stuff about parenting. We talk a lot about like hitting our kids and stuff, and I've never spanked my son. I don't believe in that. And my son and I spend a lot of time. We talk through things. It's a lot more work to talk through things, and sometimes it's hard to get the right words. But that as I practiced it, I've gotten better and better at it. And it's been amazing that even at young ages of like 2 and 3 years old, having those discussions with him about the things that he's doing and being improper and tying them back into language that he could understand has made a huge difference in our relationship and his ability to process. And he doesn't leave crying as often from being spanked, and he's not afraid of me to spanking him. And that it's more out of respect and discipline and guidance that he has followed my teachings and stuff, and that I don't feel that I, even at this point in time, if I say something to him, he's listening, and I bring him back into the conversation, and so that class is really about how do you connect with your kids on a way that helps your kids be who they are, the kid that they are, with their energy and their mind and their drive, and guide them in a connected way. And so we dive into our past and then our kids and who they are, and then how do we blend those things together to make it harmonious and connected. And I just absolutely love that class. We do that one, and then we're working on doing a men's group on our time, which will be around meal prepping and exercising. And so we're going to do a exercise meal prep, like weekend activities with your kids. And so having this class where we come together and we work on, getting back in the gym. A lot of guys, lose going to gym, especially when you're going through hard times like this, going through a divorce, going through a separation, not getting to see your kids as much, being emotionally drained and mentally and financially drained. We lose sight of the things that can bring us back up, and working out and pushing your body to its limits and growing those things is something you can control, and you can get satisfaction from, and you can win even when you're not winning in everything else in your life. And then nutrition, it's easy to go and get fast food. It's easy to go and get some ice cream and dive into those things. But the real benefit and satisfaction you have is by being in good shape, showing up for your kids in a healthy and connected way. And if you're working out and if you're eating right and you're giving your kids those examples, they're seeing you do that. And by meal prepping, I get the time with my son on the weekends. We eat some taco meat and rice because he loves that stuff, just like he likes the eggs and sausage. And we can make taco meat and rice and take it with us, and we can eat it wherever we go. And we don't have to. I don't have to make a bunch of food. I don't have to think about what we're going to cook. I don't have to go to the store because I meal prep during the week. That way we'd have that time together and we can just enjoy the experience. If we want to go hiking or fishing or whatever, and we have food and we have nutritious food that's going to fuel our bodies and help us grow and be stronger. And I'm teaching him those habits now because he's going to need those things as he grows older, and they're going to benefit him and help him be more successful. And I want him to have that opportunity to see that and see it done the right way. And I think, and it allows me the freedom to then do a lot more on the weekends with him. When I have him a lot more time, it gives me that freedom. And so I think the benefit I've gotten from it, I think that I'm not alone in that it could benefit other people. And so because I've seen the benefit, we're building this class together with a couple friends to actually do this and make that happen. And then the other thing that I'm probably saving for last, and it might be my second favorite thing, and I think it's going to become maybe my most favorite. It's our Back to Basics camps. And I read this great book. I don't know if you ever read it, Mark, but if you haven't read it, I know your son's 22 and it's not, you can still do it, but it's called Raising a Modern Day Knight. Have you ever read that book?
No, never heard of it.
I'll send you a picture of it. Raising a Modern Day Knight. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
can send you the book, but it's by Robert Lewis, and he writes about how boys, especially, um, we used to be raised in this era where you went through rituals to become men and to become adults, and that there was these responsibilities that men had, and our society has lost all those things. We've gotten rid of this connectivity through generations, and we've lost this rite of passage that we used to have. And he talks about it in like squires into knighthood and stuff. And so the book's about helping your kids go through these transformational ages that they have, and being there and having these moments of guidance and ceremony around that transition into the next phases of life. And so having the opportunity around like 6 to 10 years old to transition from being a baby into a young kid, and the responsibilities of being in school and brushing your teeth and doing those things, and that you're growing up and you get to do more and be more involved in decisions about how you're going to live your life, and taking part in those things. And he built this whole program. And so we actually have a friend of mine has a camp that I'm on the board for called Back to Basics Camps, and we're putting together a whole entire program. And we're starting our first one with Kids as Their Dads in August in Wilson, Wyoming. So middle of nowhere, but it's absolutely incredibly gorgeous, and it's got everything you could ever imagine of Wyoming at your fingertips within an hour. And and in this place, there's no electronics. There's actually a phone booth that you have to put your phones away in. You don't get to have any electronics. There's oil lamps, and we go to the chicken coop and we pull our eggs out every morning, and we go to the garden and pull our vegetables we're going to eat, and we have meat and stuff there we got from from the market and stuff for it, but that we cook over an open fire. We have we hang out and we bang some drums. We work on communication, and we talk, and we go do some experiences together as families and as groups. And the men get together and hang out in the morning time before the kids get up and talk about coffee and plan our day out, and the kids get to play. And then we connect with our kids and spend this time, and it's all around connecting with them and being with them and guiding them into the life they want to have, and showing them that we're here and we're connected and we're supporting them in growing in this experience. And then transitioning that through into adulthood, where we have a rite of passage ceremony around a family crest, and that each person that comes to these, we do projects to actually build our own family crests. And the ultimate goal is that we actually have a whole woodworking course that's in it, and that the guys that come, we woodwork together and build this family crest that then gets passed on to our kids. And it's about the things that are important for us, and the qualities and the life that we want to give to our kids, and that we espouse to every day. And it can be a great reminder and support, and it helps us to connect. And then when you're having a bad day and a bad moment, and your kids are having a bad day and a bad moment, they can look at that family crest. Oh, I love you too, my son. He drew on his leg a little tattoo. I love Dad.
Nice.
I love you, Dad. Thanks, son. But that's really where we're at. And then we do a lot of engagement activities. We're really focused on giving dads and kids opportunities to connect and build relationships. And so sporting events and getting free tickets, going through, you've had kids, and the cost and difficulty it is to raise kids. And I don't know if you've always been together or split homes. We haven't dove into that, but that it's tough. If you're together, it's tough to afford to have kids and you go and do experiences. And if you are separated, it's even tougher. And so putting together these programs where we have sporting events and fishing tournaments and fishing classes and hunting classes and gun builds for kids and dads, and having these opportunities to give dads experiences that they wouldn't normally afford to have or be able to have, in a way that they may not ever have done on their own. And so the big thing we have coming up next is the bike to school. But then we have on Father's Day, and we're going to do this every Father's Day going forward, is a water gun fight at the fairgrounds. And the intention is to set the world record for largest water gun fight ever and beat it every single year going forward.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, tell us where we can reach you, man. I'm gonna let you loose so you and your son can make some breakfast. Just tell us how we can get in contact with Kids Deserves Dads.
Yeah, so the Facebook page is always the best. I think everybody's on Facebook. We're on all the socials, so Facebook, Instagram. If you look up Kids Deserve Dads, that will pop up first on all of the socials. We have a website, www.kidsdeservedads.org. And I can be reached at Zach, ZAC, at kidsdeservedads.org. And we have a phone line and stuff, but if somebody's needing some help, if guys are having a tough time and they're struggling, I always give out my personal cell phone number. Send me a text. I'll get back to you when I can, as soon as I can, and usually it's pretty quick. So I want people to be able to know that they have support out there and stuff. And we're working on building I got a grant to get a grant writer, because that's how grants work, I think. But and so we're going to have a crisis line for dads going through this. But right now, I'm mostly the crisis line, and I have a couple friends sometimes. But feel free to give me a call if you need support. If you're struggling to be the dad you want to be and you need help, my number is 307-256-6257. Send me a text. It's usually the best way to get a hold of me. If you call me and I don't answer, it will tell you to leave me a text. So, but I'm available. I'm here to help guys out as much as I can. I want to heal this world, and I think we can heal this world through connection and support. And helping dads be involved in the kids' lives is going to help the kids be better, and that's how we're going to change this world and make it the world we want to have. And so I'm here for you, man. However I can be here, and my intention is to keep growing these programs and keep making a bigger difference. And I look forward to doing it with everybody.
Zach, the word thank you doesn't really cover it, man, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing. Want to stay in touch, man, or find a way to get you back on again real soon, man. But continue to do the great work that you're doing. And I really appreciate it, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it deeply.
Yeah, you too, Mark, man. It was a pleasure getting to talk to you today, and I look forward to hanging out more. We'll talk offline, and we'll connect, because I definitely appreciate you, and I look forward to learning more and being connected with you more going forward. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, man. And we get together real soon with a conversation from Black Men Talk. I want to thank those for giving us an air. Appreciate it.